Imagine unlocking your front door. You know, you've just finished this long, exhausting run in the cold night air.
Right, you're physically drained.
Exactly. You're tired, your muscles are aching, and well, all you want is the safety of your own living room. So you slide the key into the lock, a key your husband gave you, and it doesn't turn.
Which is just a tiny anomaly at first.
Right, but you try again and nothing. So you knock, and when the door swings open, you aren't greeted by your husband. You are greeted by a total stranger.
A stranger in your own house.
Yeah, but the true horror isn't just that someone is in your house. The horror is that this stranger is wearing your favorite vintage dress. She is wearing your actual wedding ring.
Oh, God.
And when the police arrive, your husband walks out, puts his arm around the stranger, looks you dead in the eye, and tells the officers that, you are the intruder.
That's just chilling.
Today, we aren't looking at a physical home invasion. We are dissecting a psychological one.
Because it really is the absolute dismantling of a human being's reality.
Right.
What we're doing today is opening a highly classified file drawn directly from the case notes of the Untold Chapters.
And we are traveling to Hope Falls for this one.
Right, Hope Falls. It's this picturesque, almost deceptively quaint Cornish fishing village. The cliffs are steep, the water is super dark and unforgiving.
And there's that local waterfall, right?
Yeah, known locally as a suicide spot. But it hides a conspiracy so deeply buried, so utterly brutal, it really forces us to reconsider the limits of human cruelty. We are conducting a forensic cytological autopsy of a cold case involving identity displacement, weaponized trauma, and murder.
And we want you, the listener, right here in the room with us for this, because this isn't just a recounting of events, We are going to dig into the deep psychological mechanisms of why this happened.
The underlying architecture of the crime.
Exactly. So if you want access to future classified case files and psychological breakdowns from the Untold Chapters, you need to join the investigation. Keep this deep dive channel locked in, subscribe to the feed so you don't miss a single detail of these files.
Because I promise you, this specific case is going to challenge everything you think you know about the people closest to you.
I mean, it really makes you question everything.
It does, because, well, the human mind is a fortress. It's designed to protect us, to filter out threats, and to maintain a cohesive narrative of who we are.
Right.
But when those fortress walls are breached from the inside by the very people you've trusted to stand guard, the collapse isn't just catastrophic, it is absolute.
So I want to take us back to that exact inciting fracture. Let's look at the night this psychological annihilation occurred. We have Eden Fox. She's a 30-something artist.
Living in that incredible house.
Yeah, she lives in this striking 16th century cliffside home called Spyglass. She's just been out for a night run along the cliffs to clear her head. She comes back to Spyglass, which is, her sanctuary.
And she reaches for her key.
Right. And the file notes specifically that this key is on a silver chain that says, "Love you to the moon and back." It was a gift from her husband, Harrison. She tries to unlock the heavy front door, and it just doesn't fit.
And from a neurological standpoint, this is the first microfracture. The brain operates as a prediction engine.
How do you mean?
Well, it predicts that the key will turn, the door will open, and safety will be achieved. When the key doesn't turn, the prediction engine stutters. It's a minor anomaly, but it primes the nervous system for an alert.
But then, the anomaly becomes a literal nightmare. She knocks, and a woman answers the door.
A woman she's never seen before.
Right, but someone who looks shockingly, unnervingly familiar. Like, she looks like an older, slightly more polished version of Eden herself, and then Eden registers the clothing.
This is where it gets so surreal.
Completely. The woman is wearing a vintage black velvet dress. A dress Eden had meticulously repaired by hand, a dress she had hanging in her closet, planning to wear it that very night to her first major art exhibition.
Just violating her personal space entirely.
Exactly. And glinting in the porch light, this stranger is wearing Eden's engagement and wedding rings.
We really need to pause here and break down the mechanics of the cognitive dissonance Eden is experiencing.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Cognitive dissonance isn't just feeling confused. It is a mechanical failure of the brain's ability to hold two mutually exclusive, contradictory realities at the exact same time.
Like two truths fighting each other.
Right. Reality A is, I am Eden Fox, this is my home, these are the clothes I mended with my own hands. Reality B is, this woman is standing inside the threshold of my home, physically occupying my clothes, wearing my rings, and looking at me as if I am the stranger.
Wow, so her brain is just getting totally overloaded.
Exactly. The visual cortex is feeding the brain impossible information.
It's like a parasite taking over a host organism. We can easily understand a burglary, right? The TV is gone, the window is broken, the police dust for prints.
Yeah, that's an external violation.
But this is having your actual reality stolen in real time. How does a human brain not simply break in half at that moment?
Well, it does break. It enters a state of profound dissociation. We rely on environmental anchors to tell us who we are.
Like our house and our stuff.
Exactly. Our home, our possessions, our partner. These external markers reinforce our internal identity. When those anchors are suddenly untethered and co-opted by someone else, the psyche essentially short-circuits.
As a defense mechanism.
Yeah. The trauma is so immense that the brain detaches from the present moment just to survive it. But the true psychological violence, the absolute crushing, lethal blow, comes just moments later.
Oh, yes. The arrival of Harrison Wolfe. This is Eden's husband, the wealthy CEO who commutes to London, the guy who gave her that silver keychain.
Right.
Eden sees him walk to the door in his immaculate Armani suit. And of course, the prediction engine you mentioned kicks in again, right? She thinks, here is my husband. He will recognize me. He'll banish this crazy imposter. He will restore order.
But he doesn't.
He absolutely doesn't. Instead, Harrison steps out. He looks at the local police officer who just arrived on the scene, this young, clearly inexperienced guy named Sergeant Carter.
Right.
And Harrison looks this officer dead in the eye and with complete, terrifying calm claims his wife, Eden, is upstairs resting with a migraine. He points to the real Eden, his actual wife, standing freezing in her running gear, and calls her a dangerous, delusional stranger who has been stalking and threatening his family.
This is the absolute zenith of gaslighting. The term gaslighting is thrown around so casually today to describe, minor disagreements or lies.
Yeah, totally overused.
But this is its purest, most toxic clinical form. Think about the trauma response occurring in Eden's body.
Yeah.
Your primary attachment figure, the person your brain is biologically hardwired to trust above all others for survival, looks at you with cold, dead eyes and legally erases your existence.
Wait, I really want to emphasize that physical response because it's not just a betrayal of the heart, right? It's a visceral biological terror.
Exactly. According to polyvagal theory, when we're faced with a life-threatening situation, our autonomic nervous system cascades through defense states, fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
But when the threat is the person supposed to be protecting you, the system collapses into a state of primal panic. The social engagement system shuts down entirely.
Because there's nowhere to run.
Exactly. Eden is stripped of her identity, her assets, her phone, her shelter, and her safety, all in a matter of seconds, by the architect of her life.
And the environment perfectly, almost poetically, mirrors this horror. The file describes the architecture of Spyglass, the house. It's a 16th century build on the edge of the Cornish cliffs.
Yeah, with those weird walls.
Right. The notes say it has these wonky, wave-like walls and massive windows that look exactly like giant staring eyes.
It's a brilliant physical manifestation of her psychological state. The wave-like walls represent the warping of truth, the physical bending of reality that Harrison is orchestrating.
Oh, that's a great point.
And those eye-like windows symbolize the panopticon she has fallen into. The panopticon is this concept of a prison where the inmates are constantly being watched, or feel they are being watched, without knowing exactly when.
Like she's constantly under surveillance.
Exactly. Eden is suddenly outside in the freezing dark, totally exposed, being monitored, judged, and systematically dismantled by imposters inside her own sanctuary.
It's just chilling. So as we dive into this file, my immediate question is, how does a husband pull this off? I mean, how does a man participate so smoothly without a micro-expression of guilt in the total erasure of his own wife?
To understand the execution of this hit, we have to profile the architect. We really need to look deeply at Harrison Wolfe.
Yeah, what's his deal?
Harrison's a masterclass in psychological compartmentalization and pathological control. To understand the man in the Armani suit calmly destroying his wife, we have to open his classified background.
The childhood stuff.
Specifically, the neurology of his childhood trauma, because the Harrison standing on that porch was forged in an incubator of extreme deprivation.
The notes detail this crushing poverty. His father died when Harrison was just 10 years old. And his mother, she just completely checked out of reality.
Yeah, she retreated entirely.
She drank cheap wine constantly. She read these cheap paperback romance novels to escape her miserable life. And she left her young son to literally starve and freeze.
It's heartbreaking.
There's this horrific detail in the file where 10-year-old Harrison had to choose between using their last bit of money to buy a tin of food to eat or putting a coin in the meter to heat the house. He couldn't have both.
A 10-year-old making that choice.
Right. He remembers the physical, agonizing sensation of hypothermia and hunger while having to tiptoe around his mother's terrifying, unpredictable temper.
When you look at the neurology of a developing 10-year-old brain under those conditions, it is deeply revealing. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, physiological survival food, warmth, safety is the foundational layer of human existence.
It's the base of the pyramid.
Exactly. When a child is subjected to extreme, unpredictable neglect, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for logic and empathy, is basically hijacked by the amygdala, the survival center.
So he's just in constant survival mode.
Yes. Harrison learned a very specific, permanent lesson. Emotional vulnerability equals physical starvation. Relying on someone else means you might freeze to death.
So how does a kid survive that without just, giving up entirely?
They build armor. Impenetrable, heavy armor. For Harrison, that armor became the relentless pursuit of money and control.
The Armani suits.
Right. His meticulous grooming, the $1,000 suits, his status as the CEO of a major company in London. None of these are merely status symbols. They're psychological barricades.
That makes so much sense.
They are the physical manifestations of a 10-year-old boy, ensuring he will never be cold, hungry, or the mercy of a woman's unpredictable moods ever again.
And look at the name of his company, Thanatos. In Greek mythology, Thanatos is the literal personification of death.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a pharmatech company focused on researching and studying human frailty, with an emphasis on comfort when there is no cure.
It is remarkably on the nose from a psychoanalytic perspective. Freud wrote extensively about the Thanatos drive, the death drive, the subconscious desire to return to a state of calm, inorganic nothingness to escape the pain of life.
Wow. Okay.
Harrison has built an entire corporate empire dedicated to controlling and managing human frailty. Because frailty, to Harrison, is the ultimate enemy.
It's what killed his dad.
Exactly. Frailty is what killed his father. Frailty is what made his mother abandon him. He relies on absolute, unyielding control to ensure his survival.
But wait, I have a real problem with the sociopathic label. Because if he is just a cold, calculating machine, how do you explain his daughter?
That's the fascinating part.
He is a fiercely loving, fiercely protective father to his 18-year-old daughter, Gabriella. He isn't a robot. He demonstrates this terrifying cognitive dissonance in real time.
He really does.
He can simultaneously be a devoted dad and a ruthless conspirator who calmly watches his wife get terrorized on a porch. How does a man fake grief so convincingly?
What do you mean?
Well, DCI Birdie, a highly trained detective, interviews him after Eden officially goes missing. Harrison looks at her and says, "The only cure for heartbreak is hard work." And the detective buys it. It's utterly believable.
It's believable because, on a pathological level, Harrison likely believes his own narrative. This is the danger of high-functioning compartmentalization.
He's lying to himself.
People like Harrison don't view their actions in binary terms of good or evil. They view them as necessary, pragmatic course corrections to maintain the integrity of their empire.
So it's just business to him.
Exactly. He completely compartmentalizes his empathy. He reserves 100% of it for his daughter, Gabriella. She represents the only pure, manageable, controllable love in his life.
And everyone else.
Everyone else, his mother, his wives, his employees, are variables. When a variable threatens the empire, it must be neutralized.
And we must be extremely clear here. Harrison didn't just wake up one morning, get bored of Eden, and decide to gaslight her into oblivion out of generic cruelty.
No, absolutely not. He discovered a terrifying, world-shattering truth about his wife. A truth that bypassed all his armor and struck right at the heart of his only vulnerability. Gabriella.
Right. To uncover the motive for this elaborate conspiracy, we have to pivot our focus to the silent vessel of the family's trauma.
Right.
We have to look at Gabriella.
She is the absolute emotional epicenter of this entire file.
She is. She is Harrison's daughter, now 18 years old. But the horrifying detail here is that she hasn't spoken a single word in 10 years.
10 years of absolute silence, following what the original medical files documented as a mysterious accident when she was just 8 years old.
Can we analyze this from a clinical perspective? Because silence for a decade isn't just someone being stubborn, right?
No, not at all. It is a profound neurological shutdown. Gabriella suffers from selective mutism induced by extreme post-traumatic stress.
And Harrison tried to fix it, right?
Oh, relentlessly. Utilizing his vast corporate wealth, he took her to every top neurologist and specialist in the country. The MRI scans and evaluations confirmed there was no organic brain damage.
So physically she was fine.
Yes, The silence was not a physical inability of the vocal cords or the speech centers. It was a psychological barricade.
Like an internal panic room.
Precisely. When trauma is too immense for the developing brain to process, the mind effectively builds a panic room and locks the child inside.
That's terrifying.
The speech center Broca's area can essentially disconnect from the narrative memory centers. Her mind built a wall so thick, so impenetrable, to protect her from a truth she could not verbalize.
So she's just retreated entirely.
Yeah, she retreated entirely into an internal, non-verbal world, communicating only through painting.
It's haunting to think about. An 8-year-old child locking away a horror so dark that language itself simply ceases to exist. So what was the hidden memory? What did she witness?
It's incredibly grim.
We finally get the reveal deep in the case notes. 10 years ago, little Gabriella was playing hide-and-seek in the house. She hid inside a large wardrobe in the master bedroom.
Just a normal kid playing a game.
Right. And while she was hiding in the dark, peering through the slats, she witnessed her father, Harrison, sleeping with their 21-year-old nanny. And that nanny, was Eden.
A profound betrayal of the family unit, witnessed in secret by a child.
Yeah.
The psychological damage of seeing your foundational protectors violating the rules of the family is immense. But the trauma, the event that truly shattered her, doesn't end with the infidelity.
No, it doesn't. It escalates from infidelity to attempted murder.
Right.
Gabriella, being 8 and deeply attached to her mother, confronted the nanny after her father left for work. She stood up to Eden and told her, "I'm going to tell my mommy."
Which is such a brave thing for a kid to do.
It is. But Eden panicked. Her new, luxurious life was about to be destroyed by a child. So Eden grabbed the 8-year-old girl, dragged her kicking and screaming to the top of the staircase, and pushed her over the banister.
Unbelievable cruelty.
Gabriella fell, landing broken and bleeding on the hard stone floor below. Eden left her lying there for hours. Then, under the cover of darkness, Eden dragged the child's broken body outside into the road, placed her bicycle next to her, and staged a hit-and-run accident.
It is the ultimate manifestation of a narcissistic survival response. Eden was faced with a threat to her social and financial elevation.
So she just neutralized the threat.
Exactly. She prioritized her own preservation, protecting her affair with the wealthy CEO over the life of a child. She violently, callously discarded the threat.
And the trauma of that.
The sheer physical trauma of the fall, the agonizing pain of lying there for hours, combined with the profound psychological betrayal by a caregiver. It locked Gabriella's mind in a permanent state of shock.
Okay, I have to step in here and play devil's advocate, because if I'm looking at this file, I have to ask the hard question. Is the suppressed memory of an 8-year-old locked away for 10 years without a single spoken word actually reliable?
That's a very fair question.
Because are we looking at a trauma-induced confabulation? We know from forensic psychology that memory isn't a video camera. You look at the work of Elizabeth Loftus on false memories. Memory degrades, it morphs.
It definitely does.
The brain fills in the gaps with whatever narrative makes the most sense. Could Gabriella's traumatized brain have simply inserted Eden's face into the nightmare because she resented her new stepmother?
I want you, the listener, to really think about this for a second. It is one of the most hotly debated topics in forensic psychology. Trauma can absolutely distort memory.
Like getting the color of a car wrong.
Right. The peripheral details, the color of the shirt, the exact time of day, those often blur or shift. However, the neurology of profound, singular traumatic events operates differently.
How so?
When a life-threatening event occurs, the amygdala essentially brands the core details of the threat into the brain with terrifying clarity.
It burns it in.
Yes, the central mechanism of the trauma, the physical sensation of being dragged, the visceral push, the specific terrifying identity of the aggressor looking down at you often remains remarkably intact.
Because you need to remember who hurt you.
Exactly. Because the brain evolutionarily deems that specific information a matter of ultimate survival. Do not forget the face of the predator.
And the context of how the memory was retrieved matters here, right?
Vitally. The memory wasn't retrieved through suggestive hypnosis or leading questions from a therapist, which is where confabulation typically occurs. It emerged spontaneously.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
It happened when Gabriella was finally reunited with the one person on Earth who could make her feel safe enough to unlock the panic room.
Right, the trigger of the whisper. After 10 years, Gabriella's biological mother starts secretly visiting her at the high-end care facility, the Manor. And day by day, sitting in the quiet with her mother, Gabriella begins to whisper.
Just letting it out slowly.
A single word at a time. A slow, agonizing drip feed of a 10-year-old crime. And the revelation of this memory, it didn't just break Harrison's reality when he was finally told.
No, it did something much worse.
It unleashed the most dangerous, unstable psychological force in this entire case file. The avenging mother.
The conspiracy of three is born from this exact whisper. Because Gabriella's mother is not just any grieving parent. She is DCI Olivia Birdie Bird.
Let's really look at Birdie. She was Harrison's first wife. She is a highly intelligent, high-ranking detective. She walks around with this massive wolf dog named Sunday. She has a swallow tattoo. She is tough. She is formidable.
She's the law, basically.
She is the law.
But underneath that tough exterior, for 10 long years, she has been carrying an unimaginable psychological weight. A guilt complex so deep, so corrosive, it entirely defined her existence.
Because for a decade, Birdie believes she was the one who caused her daughter's brain damage.
Which is just awful.
The case notes detail this sick, perfectly timed manipulation by Eden. 10 years ago, after Eden dumped Gabriella's broken body in the road to stage the hit and run, Eden called Harrison in a panic to say the child was missing.
Setting the trap.
Harrison immediately called Birdie, his wife the detective. Birdie is racing home in the dark in the pouring Cornish rain, desperate to find her little girl.
And then the phone rings.
As she's turning onto her dark street, her phone rings. It's Eden. Eden timed the call perfectly, watching the car approach, knowing exactly when to create a distraction.
Diabolical.
Birdie looks away from the dark road for a split second to answer the phone. Her car hits the planted bicycle, and Birdie genuinely, fully believes that her own vehicle struck her daughter in the dark.
This is a psychological masterstroke of dark manipulation by Eden. She didn't just hide her attempted murder, she fundamentally transferred the guilt, the blame, and the lifelong trauma onto the victim's mother.
That is just pure evil.
For a decade, Birdie lived in a self-imposed purgatory. Can you imagine the psychological toll? Believing that your momentary lapse in attention, your distraction, destroyed your own child's life.
I can't even fathom it.
Guilt is an inward-facing emotion. It consumes the self. It erodes self-worth.
So when Birdie finally sits in that room at the manor and her daughter whispers the truth, that Eden pushed her, that Eden staged the scene, that Eden engineered the phone call to frame Birdie, what happens in Birdie's brain? Because she doesn't arrest Eden, she doesn't go to her superiors.
What we see is a fascinating psychological transmutation, alchemy. The profound, decade-long, inward-facing guilt instantly transmutes into hyper-focused, outward-facing, lethal rage.
Like flipping a switch.
Exactly. When you carry guilt that doesn't belong to you, and you finally discover the architect of your suffering, the moral compass doesn't just spin, it shatters.
She stops being a cop.
The cognitive dissonance of being a sworn officer of the law simply vanishes. The law failed her child. The law allowed a monster to live in luxury while her daughter lived in silence. Birdie transitions from a detective seeking systemic justice to an executioner seeking primal vengeance.
Which leads us directly to the conspiracy of three. We have Birdie, Harrison, and a woman named Mary Kendall. Mary is Gabriella's carer at the manor.
An unlikely trio.
We have this unholy alliance. Let's look at how these three distinct people justify their actions. It operates almost like a corporate hostile takeover, but the asset being stripped and liquidated is a human life.
It's the perfect analogy. They identified the toxic asset, Eden recognized the liabilities she posed, and executed a hostile merger to liquidate her.
The psychological mechanics of group polarization are heavily at play here, right?
Heavily. Group polarization happens when individuals with shared, moderate grievances or goals get together, and the group dynamic strips away their individual moral brakes.
Can you break that down a bit more?
Think of it like a soundboard where every slider is pushed to the maximum. If Birdie were acting alone, she might just shoot Eden in a rage. If Harrison were acting alone, he might just try to bankrupt her.
But together,
they validate each other's darkest impulses. The responsibility for the crime is diffused among the three of them, which creates a phenomenon known as the risky shift. They're willing to execute a plan far more elaborate and devastating than any of them would stomach individually.
So let's look at the individual payouts. What does each board member of this conspiracy get? Mary, the carer, wants the house. Spyglass.
Right, she has a connection to it.
Yeah, it originally belonged to Birdie's grandmother, and Mary was promised it long ago, but the estate sold it out from under her. So Mary wants a cliffside house and a lifetime salary funded by Harrison.
And Harrison wants to protect his company, Thanatos.
Exactly. He knows Eden has him cornered. There was no prenuptial agreement. If he divorces her for the attempted murder of his child from 10 years ago, it becomes a massive, sensational public scandal.
His stock would plummet.
His company's stock plummets, his reputation is ruined, and Eden might still walk away with half of his empire in a messy settlement. He needs his money protected. And Birdie, well, Birdie just wants ultimate, agonizing revenge.
And so they construct a campaign of meticulous psychological warfare. They decide that simply killing Eden is too merciful. It doesn't balance the scales for 10 years of Gabriella's silence.
They want her to suffer.
They decide to systematically strip Eden of her sanity, her assets, her home, and her very identity first. They utilize Mary, who shares a superficial physical resemblance to Eden, to slowly insert herself into the village of Hope Falls.
The imposter.
Right. Mary studies Eden, she learns her gait, she learns how to mimic her voice. Mary goes to the local bakery, attends local art gallery events, introduces herself as Eden Fox.
That's dedication.
They establish a false, parallel public record of Eden Fox that matches Mary's face.
The psychological toll of that of Mary entirely erasing her own micro-expressions to become a vessel for a dead woman walking is terrifying. So when the real Eden returns from her run and is locked out of her house, the trap isn't just set, it's already sprung.
The town already bought into it.
The public already believes Mary is Eden. The plan is a staged suicide. Birdie is supposed to meet Eden at the cliffs, the local suicide spot with a waterfall.
A fitting end in their minds.
Birdie plans to finally reveal the truth about Gabriella, look Eden in the eyes, and push her over the edge. They even gave Mary's hairbrush to the local police, so that if a mangled body washes up on the rocks, the DNA records will match the fake Eden.
It covers all the bases.
This allows the real Eden to vanish without a trace, legally declared dead, while Mary quietly takes over her life, her house, and her assets.
The conspiracy is chillingly perfect in its psychological rationalization. Every single conspirator feels entirely morally justified.
You don't feel guilty at all.
No, they view Eden not as a human being with rights, but as a pathogen, a monster who must be eradicated for the health and safety of the family organism.
But here's where the case file takes a hairpin turn that throws every single theory out the window.
The absolute wild card.
We have 3 brilliant conspirators executing a flawless psychological hit. But none of them actually landed the fatal blow. The real killer wasn't even in on the plot. We have to look at the wild card, the pathology of the plain Jane.
The ultimate tragic twist. This case demonstrates a profound truth about human nature. You can plan the perfect psychological crime, you can map out every variable, but you can never, ever account for the banality of human jealousy.
To understand the actual murder, we need to profile Sergeant Carter first. He's the young, handsome, utterly inexperienced local cop who responded to Eden's house the night she was locked out.
The one Harrison played like a fiddle.
The guy Harrison completely manipulated and outsmarted on the porch. Carter is a man driven entirely by ego and a superficial, fragile sense of moral obligation. He got a local woman, Jane, pregnant after a New Year's Eve one-night stand.
A classic small-town trap.
Because he was raised with this rigid idea to always do the right thing, he moved in with her and married her. But he feels completely trapped in a marriage of inconvenience. He resents her. He doesn't even wear a wedding ring.
So he acts out.
Right. So how does he compensate for his feelings of inadequacy and entrapment? He has a reckless affair with his new powerful boss, DCI Birdie.
Carter is a fundamentally weak man. He uses a rigid, performative moral compass to mask his own profound inadequacies.
He likes the uniform, basically.
He likes the power of the uniform, but lacks the internal fortitude to make hard choices. But the true danger in his household isn't his infidelity. It's the mind of his wife, Jane. Jane is the actual killer in this file.
Jane. The woman who wears animal-shaped slippers and denim dungarees. The woman everyone in the village of Hope Falls completely overlooks. The woman who bakes cupcakes and pushes a stroller.
The invisible woman.
We have to get into the mind of Jane. What is the psychological pathology operating here?
Jane suffers from a deep-seated inferiority complex. She herself articulates it internally as, everyone thinks I'm just a plain Jane.
So she knows how people see her.
Adlerian psychology teaches us that when a person feels profoundly inferior or invisible to society, they must overcompensate to find a sense of superiority or control.
And how does she do that?
Jane knows the village views her as a pushover, a mistake Carter had to marry. So she compensates by building an identity centered entirely on extreme maternal righteousness. She is a mother. She is a wife.
It's her whole world.
It is the only domain in the entire world where she feels she has value, power, and status. Therefore, any perceived threat to that domain is met not with sadness, but with an existential, almost feral, lethal defense mechanism.
Which leads directly to the fatal misunderstanding. The ultimate absurd, darkly comic tragedy of this entire case.
It really is absurd.
Jane decides to be the good wife and surprise Carter at the police station with a homemade lunch and their baby. She walks up, looks through the glass window of the station, and sees the back of a blonde slut's head.
Her words, of course.
Yes, her words. She sees this blonde woman sitting on her husband's desk, kissing him. Now, we as investigators, having read the file, know this was almost certainly Mary, the imposter.
Right, Mary dressed as Eden.
Mary was likely playing her role as the erratic Eden, perhaps trying to create chaos, or maybe just manipulating the weak Sergeant Carter to ensure the local police were thoroughly compromised. But Jane doesn't know about Mary.
No, she's completely in the dark.
Jane doesn't know about the conspiracy of three. Jane just sees a beautiful, rich, blonde woman kissing her trapped husband.
And this visual triggers a catastrophic psychological break in Jane. The banality of evil, a concept coined by Hannah Arendt, is perfectly illustrated here. Jane doesn't view murder as an act of profound evil or an agonizing moral breach. She justifies it as a necessary domestic chore, like scrubbing a stain out of the rug or doing the laundry.
That's horrifying.
She is simply protecting her family from predatory women trying to steal her husband.
It's so utterly mundane, it's terrifying. Later that week, during the village's Day of the Dead parade, Jane wanders up to the cliffs near the waterfall. She bumps into the real Eden.
Just a chance encounter.
Jane confronts her. She aggressively accuses Eden of kissing her husband at the station. Now, the real Eden is completely confused. She has been sleeping rough. She is terrified. She has no idea what Jane is talking about.
Because it wasn't her.
She vehemently denies the kiss, perhaps trying to explain that there is another woman pretending to be her. But how does Jane's brain process that denial?
Oh, it completely backfires.
Jane's paranoia and deep-seated insecurity filtered this denial as extreme mockery. Jane perceives this beautiful, wealthy, arrogant artist looking down at her, lying to her face, playing her for an absolute fool.
And that perceived humiliation is the trigger. It is not a calculated assassination. It is a sudden, explosive, territorial reaction.
She just snaps.
Jane simply reaches out and pushes Eden off the cliff. The brilliant, decade-in-the-making conspiracy, meticulously plotted by three masterminds utilizing corporate wealth and police resources, is entirely circumvented by a disgruntled, invisible housewife holding a grudge.
It is stunning. It forces us to reevaluate every single character, every single action in this file. And this brings us to an unsolved detail, and I want you, the listener, to weigh in your own mind and build your own theory on this.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Look at the mechanics of that kiss at the police station. You have to ask yourself, was Mary, the imposter, intentionally seducing Carter while dressed as Eden to cause absolute chaos? Was she enjoying the power trip of destroying Eden's reputation?
Was it something else entirely?
Right. Or was Jane's paranoia so deep, her inferiority complex so severe, that she just hallucinated the threat entirely? Maybe Carter was just leaning over his desk, and Jane's mind filled in the blanks with her worst fears.
What is your read on Mary's hidden motives? Drop your theories in the comments.
It's a critical variable for understanding the full scope of the psychology here, because Mary is the cipher in this case.
She really is.
She secured the house, she secured the lifetime salary, but her emotional investment remains opaque. Was she merely a mercenary doing a job for Harrison, or did she derive a pathological parasitic pleasure from the identity theft itself?
It's a question that haunts the whole file. Let's move into our final assessment, sorting the guilty. Because when you look at this file chronologically, stepping back from the cliff edge, you see a horrifying cycle of sociopathy.
A complete breakdown of morality.
Trauma and deceit infected absolutely every single layer of this case.
We are looking at a contagion model of psychological violence. Trauma gets trauma. Empathy erosion spreads like a virus.
It just infects everyone it touches. 10 years ago, Eden stole Bertie's life through an act of unspeakable physical violence against an innocent child. In response, a decade later, Bertie, Harrison, and Mary tried to steal Eden's life through calculated psychological warfare and identity erasure.
And then Jane.
And finally, Jane took Eden's life through sheer, banal domestic jealousy. Every single person in this narrative firmly believes they are the victim, and therefore every single person believes their violence is entirely morally justified.
Which brings us to a major psychological fork in the road. I want you to sit with this and ask yourself where you land. Look at the entirety of Eden Fox's arc.
It's a complicated arc.
Was Eden Fox ultimately a victim? Was she a woman subjected to a terrifying gaslighting conspiracy that stripped her of her sanity, her home, and her life? Or was she a master manipulator who simply reaped the karmic violence she sowed 10 years ago when she pushed an 8-year-old girl off a balcony?
It entirely challenges our human need for a clear protagonist and a clear antagonist. We want good guys and bad guys.
We want it to be simple.
But the true crime in this file isn't just the physical murder. It's the total systemic erosion of empathy across the board.
As we close this classified file from the Untold Chapters, I want to leave you with the chilling reality of where this story currently sits. Jane Carter pushed Eden Fox off a cliff.
A sudden, violent end.
The body washed up on the rocks, mangled and unrecognizable. The masterminds Bertie, Harrison, and Mary believe either one of them finally did it, or Eden succumbed to the psychological pressure and jumped. They got away with it. They won.
They think they orchestrated the perfect crime.
But Jane got away with it too, and she's perfectly aware of what she did, and she's perfectly unremorseful.
Her internal monologue at the end of the case file is a testament to the chilling calm of a fully realized psychopath hiding in plain sight.
I want to read you Jane's exact thoughts. Remember, she knows her husband Carter is now sleeping with his former boss, DCI Bertie.
Right.
Jane says, I wore my Day of the Dead costume, and I went there and I found her, but she looked dead already. Otherwise, I would have killed her too. I'm still watching her. I still might.
The predator is still in the house. The cycle hasn't ended. It's merely resting, waiting for the next perceived threat to the nest.
We've spent this entire time dissecting the physical and psychological monsters in this file. But here's a thought we haven't touched on, something I want you to take with you.
Yeah, what's that?
We talked about how Mary was able to steal Eden's life because she planted a false public record in a small town. But think about today. Think about the terrifying permanence and the terrifying fragility of your digital footprint.
Oh, that's a whole different level of scary.
In an era where our identities are entirely stored on servers, in algorithms, in facial recognition databases, and social feeds, if a conspiracy of 3 coordinated an attack to systematically delete your digital existence tomorrow, to change your passwords, empty your accounts, and alter your public records, how exactly would you prove to the world that you are still you?
It's almost impossible to prove.
If the digital glass shatters in the dark, how long until you become a stranger in your own life?